Good afternoon and welcome to Good Great Grief. And the topic tonight is how to change your mindset. I'm Dr. Michelle Petacola. I'm your instructor and leader in this masterclass today. What I would like you to start to think about is, what is your mindset right now? How is it working for you? And what do you want to change? Because that's the first step, is awareness. Now, before we begin talking about the mind, I want to help you to understand how it fits into the paradigm that I use. And this is sort of my cosmology. The cosmology of a great human adventure. There's spirit, which in my cosmology is who you really are. This other worldly being who has come into this three-dimensional plane and lives and transits this life adventure through the body. So the body is really important if you're going to have a good adventure. And for example, if you're grieving right now, your body is responding to the loss of the third element, other. Human beings are social beings. And so our relationship, our bonds with other people are hugely important. Other people have a huge influence on our thoughts and our feeling of safety. So under the body, we have physical, emotional, and mental. Physical is the body itself, these amazing systems that keep us alive, the heart, the lungs, the immune system, the blood system, the brain, which is part of the body, and the emotions. Actually, the physical, emotional, and mental are all reflected, are all kept in this cosmology of just the brain. So, for example, the body and all of its systems, most of them are unconscious. They are handled by the autonomic nervous system, which is the lower brain stem, the part of the brain that's in the back of the head. And this is automatic. And thank goodness. Wouldn't it be horrible if you had to think all the time about remembering to breathe? I mean, how often do we breathe in a minute? Or your heart, if you had to consciously make your heart beat, that would be a lot of work. Even walking, we hardly pay attention to walking. It's kind of automatic. So our autonomic nervous system, that physical part of our body, is taking care of everything behind the scenes. It's like having an auto that has an autopilot. Then there's the emotional part of the body. And if you are dealing with grief right now, this could be having a huge impact on the way in which you're experiencing life. Emotions were, from the point of view of Mother Nature, seen as an upgrade, an ability to be able to discern between friend and foe, which in the larger scheme of the animal community or kingdom is very important. You need to know who is somebody you want to associate with, like, a partner, and then who might be dangerous and trying to eat you up. So the emotional system was a system that enabled us to reach back into our memories and understand or decide in this particular moment whether this being is a friend or a foe. And then finally, there's the mental system. And this is up the cerebral cortex. And this is amazing. This is so powerful. It has so many abilities, but it also comes with trade-offs. That is, the brain sometimes gets stuck in a rut, sometimes gets stuck in a mind loop. And when it gets stuck in these loops, it can make you really unhappy if they are negative mind loops. Sometimes they get stuck in positive mind loops, and that can be a problem too. So now you know that the brain is part of the body. And to have a great human adventure, you want to learn how to master your mind so that it doesn't always constantly nag you with upsetting thoughts. The mind is the most complex. Well, maybe not. I mean, the body system is pretty complex too, and the emotions. But in terms of what you need to do, the brain is complex because you need to take action to get it to work for you. You can work a little bit with emotions, but you have to be careful because the tendency in our culture is to tamp our emotions down, to repress them. And the bad side of that is that when you repress your emotions, you don't get rid of them. Emotions need to move. They need to be released. And if we hold them down, they actually cause a blockage in the flow of all the energy in your body. I can talk about that later if you have a question about that, because right now we're going to focus on the mind. So what makes the mind complex? Well, psychologists have studied the mind, and they've determined that only 5% of the brain, the cognitive part of the brain, is operating and helping you to make decisions. The other 95% is unconscious. Well, when you think that this includes things like driving or walking or brushing your teeth or brushing your hair, that we can be okay about that. But the other part of the unconscious that can be a little disturbing is the unconscious having to do with not being aware of what is deciding your behavior. That is, that you are unaware of your decisions, what's causing your decisions. Something else is triggering it. So where do these other influences come from? Well, there are two main sources. One is your early childhood experiences. Some of it happening very early in your life when haven't even developed your cognitive awareness and capability of suppressing some thoughts and allowing others. And you are like a sponge absorbing everything that you observe. The capacity of children to imitate is huge. And a lot of this goes unconscious because it happens very early in the childhood before the child really develops its ability to think. So your mind is getting programmed very early in your life. A lot of things that are going on, how you handle grief, how you handle upsets, how you handle triggers, are largely programmed by that early experience in childhood. The influence of your parents, the influence of your culture. And yes, all of us have culture. So it's what's going on in the world around you as a child. And then, of course, what's going on around you right now in your life. What are the influencers in your life? The people that you associate with, and how are they impacting what you think? And then, of course, there's social media, and then there are news channels, and there are news sources on the internet, and the books you read, the magazines you look at, those are all influencing what's going on in your mind. And don't we have a lot of negative information flowing out there? Think about it. All the worry about climate chaos and the change in the weather patterns and the dangers of that. And then didn't we go through 3 years of the pandemic and people are still wearing masks? And every time a new announcement comes out, I see more masks on people's faces. And then, of course, there's the whole political arena that's going on in this country right now, which is the United States. And who's going to win? And what about this big, huge divide between the people on one side and the people on the other? And who's going to win? And how's that going to affect us? And this is all kind of occurring and impacting our thoughts. Now, our thoughts are important because they affect your emotions. Of course, your emotions can also affect your thoughts. And it also influences your body, how your body feels. Your mind can actually make you sick. How many times have you decided that you don't want to go somewhere and then you get sick? And your body is saying, yeah, I heard you. I'm going to give you a really, really good excuse for why you can't go. Has that ever happened to any of you? It certainly happened to me, is that it provides us with an excuse. So then there's also the effect of the current circumstance. What's going on in your life right now? So, for example, if you're dealing with a crisis, you have to make your ends meet, you have to pay your bills, and you don't have enough money in the bank account, or one of your children has gotten sick, or your husband's gotten laid off. These are the current circumstances that affect you. Now let's go back to the great human adventure. You can't be happy all the time. Your life is like an airplane going from one destination to another. It's never always on the path. It actually is always constantly correcting and bringing the plane back on course, because things push it off course. A wind, a cloud, people all leaning to one side of the plane, it affects the plane's trajectory. Maybe there's another plane and it has to avoid that plane, or maybe there are birds and it has to avoid the birds. There are all reasons why we have to constantly move. So life is about adapting and adjusting. And you can't expect perfection. But what you think about has a huge impact on what comes into your life. They call it the law of attraction. What you think actually helps to manifest what happens in your life. Now, that's a little scary. If you're thinking and worrying all the time, doesn't that sort of attract those things into your life? Or if it doesn't actually attract them, doesn't it kind of cause you to focus on the things that confirm your belief? My first husband was a worrywart. He worried all the time. Why? Because when he was growing up, his mother said many times, it's what you don't worry about that goes wrong. And so he worried all the time. But what's that? What result is that for your body? It makes you tense. It makes you nervous. It makes you anxious. And if you are constantly worrying, that means that your body never gets to calm down, to be in that place of contentment and calm. If your body is always activated in that place of alertness and fear, it triggers a release of chemicals in your body to maintain that alertness. But it's not supposed to stay around for very long. It's only supposed to be short term. And when it's around for a long time, it actually hurts the body. It actually has caustic chemicals, which can make you sick. So you want to be able to develop your ability to manage your thoughts and your emotions so that you're not constantly triggering this cascade of chemicals that can make you miserable. Now I want to ask you a few questions to help you to really bring this into your life. You know, it's very nice to have this information, but what are you going to do with it? How does this help you? So we're going to play around with that a little bit. I want to take, this is a while, but it's 2 minutes to write down, stream of consciousness, what you're thinking right now. And I'm going to do the same thing. Just write down anything that comes to your mind. And then we will get back, because then we're going to play around with what is important for you. Just write it down.
So what did you write? Did you have more positives or did you have more concerns? And I want you to go through your list and check those statements, those thoughts that are positive, and then those thoughts that are full of concern. And then add each of them up and ask yourself, do I have more positives or do I have more concerns? If you have more concerns, then it's time for you to do a mindset reset. Or even if you have more positives, but they aren't very inspiring, again, you may need to do a mindset reset. So how do you do this? Well, this is one of the things that I do in my programs, particularly my program, No Regret Now, which provides specific exercises. The first thing you need to do is be aware. That was the whole purpose of this exercise. The next step is to take action. Now, if it's a circumstantial situation that's causing the upsetting and troublesome thoughts, maybe there is something you can do. For example, maybe you're worried about your health. Maybe you feel like you're not getting enough exercise. You can change that by changing your behavior, by eating more healthy or getting more exercise. Maybe you're worried about where you're going to make your rent or the next payment on your car. How can you bring more money in? These are situational situations. But if the problem is that you don't have the courage, if you don't feel good enough or powerful enough, then you have to work at a deeper level on your mindset. You still need to take action, but now you're focusing on what your response is to that action. If emotions come up, you need to allow the emotions to release. You can't move forward if you don't allow the emotions to release, because they will hold you back. I would like to give you a little example of my life. When I was a child, and for a good portion of my life, I believed that I was not good enough, that I was not worthy. And so I spent a lot of my time trying to figure out what other people wanted, to be the good girl and give them what they wanted so that they would like me, that they would support me, that they would encourage me. This all goes back to an early childhood trauma. In the larger scheme of things, not the biggest trauma in the world. My father left me. He was transferred to Japan by the US Army, and he was the sun and moon to me. My 2-year-old brain decided that I was not good enough and that I needed to do something. That's what these emotions, that's what these thoughts are for, is to encourage you to do something. So I shut down my emotions and I decided to be the good girl. I decided to figure out what people wanted and give it to them. Now, later on, I was reunited with my father, but that particular response was already in play by the time I was reunited. It worked really well in school, so I got reinforced over and over again. I went all the way to getting my PhD in sociology and psychology. And I thought it was my ticket to worthiness. It wasn't. It turned out that it left my father feeling shamed because he had never finished his college degree. And my husband left me when I got a promotion and he got fired. He left me for another woman. This totally confused me. I couldn't figure out how the world worked, so I ran away to a spiritual community where relationships and achievement don't matter. But it turned out that I just simply replaced my father and my husband for my teacher. My pattern was the same. So sometimes when you change the situation, when you take action, it doesn't really give you the results that you need. That's why it helps to get a coach which is what I did when I met my current husband, I realized that I had this whole thing about being abandoned, and that if I didn't get myself healed, that this would come up again, and that I would just destroy my next relationship. So I did a very, very deep process that helped me to understand where my feelings of worthlessness came from and helped me to start acting in a different way. But the big breakthrough happened when my parents died. It blew me out of the water. It was like a tsunami. It just knocked me over. Now, I resisted. I did not allow myself to have emotions for a long time until my back went out and I couldn't hold it in. And then I cried. But the biggest change in my life came from my mother, who left me with this message: live your purpose, live your passion, or die with regret. Now, my mother was the poster child for living your life passion. She was a toy designer. She took her designs to major companies in New York and sold them, sometimes to the neglect of her children. And she had regrets. There was some project that she never was able to see birthed to be realized because she died too young. If she had regrets, where did that leave me? This person who spent all their time trying to figure out what other people wanted and having no idea what I wanted. Well, that changed me. I decided I would make a documentary. Well, I had not the slightest idea how to make a documentary film. I had been working in the field of video and had been doing community access TV, but I didn't know how to make a documentary. And in the process of working on that documentary, I was filled with fear constantly, and I always had to pick myself back up. But it changed my life. It was not easy. And see, that's where you want the change in behavior, is when it does bring up the emotions. It does cause you to think in different ways and allow your emotions to release and heal. And that's what I did. And then I was able to really heal the stuff that I had been trying to do in the deep program. And what I realized was that a lot of the things that I had been doing in the course of my life was actually providing me with the skills to live my mission. I made this film because I wanted to wake other people up to this glorious but all too short life, to remind people that yes, death is waiting for us all, and it is time to get moving, to do the things you were meant to do while you were here as a spirit embodied in the body. And so that's what I do now. I help people like you who are struggling with their thoughts, with their bodies, with allowing themselves to live their passion. And I actually have a number of programs that can help you. I have a mini guidebook called Essentials for Grieving Well, which, if you are dealing with grief and loss, recent grief and loss, this is a great way to start. And it's free. All you need to do is go to griefessentials.com and sign up, and you will get this illustrated guide, which also comes with follow-up emails that will help you to get started. I have more programs that involve either a low or more significant investment, but this is a way to get started to find out if this is a good fit for you. The other thing I have, if you're troubled with your mindset, is a Sufi meditation class. Meditation is one of the most powerful ways to change your mindset, to enable you to take a break from those troubling and repetitive thoughts. I do this once a week on Friday mornings at 9 o'clock. And if you want to get the link to that class, it's totally free. Go to sendfox.com/secrets of life and death. I have, as I said, other programs. I have self-study programs that can help you to change your mindset. I have programs that will help you through a 3-month program to release your grief and thrive. I have programs that will help you to get a deep dive into your early childhood traumas and how they're affecting you now and heal it. I also have a program that helps you to have a new life after loss. In addition, I have group opportunities where you can meet in a group and receive coaching, or I also have private sessions. So if you would be interested in finding out how I could support you, go ahead to meetwithdrmichelle.com and schedule a 15-minute discovery session. Be sure to include the discount code COMP, C-O-M-P, #1. And let's find out how I can support you in changing your mindset and having a better human adventure. Before we go, I would like to summarize what we've covered today. First of all, I talked to you about your great human adventure and the essentials to the great human adventure: body, physical, emotional, and mental. Well, there's the body, there's the spirit, there is others. And in the body, there is the physical aspect, which is your body and its health and the autonomic nervous system. The emotional are the emotions that come up, and then there's the mental. And today we focused on the mental. And I pointed out to you that 95% of what's going on in your brain and in your body is unconscious, that you really only have access to about 5%. But the most troubling thing is that a lot of the things that you do, a lot of your behavior, a lot of your beliefs are unconscious, that were programmed early on in your childhood, either by your parents or by your culture. And the other thing that influences what's going on in your mind right now are current events. So for example, if you had a recent loss or somebody got sick in your family, that is likely to be influencing where your thoughts are going right now. And finally, how do you manage your thoughts? The first step is to become aware of what your thoughts are. The second step is to either take action to change the circumstances so that the thoughts automatically go away, or to try and shift the thoughts themselves, to think about your situation in a different way. And oftentimes, this is going to bring to the surface your emotions that need to be healed and dealt with. And once you release your emotions, you can work more on your thoughts. Now, I do encourage you to reach out to me and see how I might be able to help you, because it's very, very difficult to change your thoughts without a certain amount of coaching, because otherwise your coach is the very same mind, programmed mind that you got from childhood. That's all for today. Hope you enjoyed the show, and come back later in this month, the month of October, for another Good Grief program. Bye for now.